up your engine! Today we're going to try to figure out why this Honda is vibrating, and I'm going to give you some excellent advice. Unfortunately, this guy didn't do it to begin with, and now he's in kind of a pickle. And my first advice is this. You may be the greatest driver on earth, but there's a bunch of idiots out there. Make sure you have uninsured motorist insurance on your policy, because this guy didn't. Guy hit him, went through a light. He spent almost $1,000 on this thing. Didn't do the body work because he didn't want to spend the money on that. He did it so it's safe to drive. And then he found out that on this old Honda Civic, after the accident, he wised up and he bought uninsured motorist insurance, and it cost him $50 a year extra. If he would have had it, he wouldn't be in this pickle in the first place. So if you do not have uninsured motorists, you live where there's any amount of people, there's a lot of idiots out there, make sure you have that. So at least if somebody does smack into you, you can get it fixed. Who wants to get involved in suing people? In this case, the guy said he was kind of a shady looking character anyway. He didn't have any insurance. Maybe the guy couldn't even afford insurance, so suing him would be a waste of time. He said the guy lived in some apartment complex, he didn't own a house or anything, so you don't want to get involved in suing people. It's best to pay that little bit extra for uninsured motorist insurance. Make sure you have it. But unfortunately he didn't, so he said it was all whacked here, so we're going to jack it up and check underneath. Now, as you can see here, the body work was just poorly done. It's all ripped and shredded. He didn't pay to get it painted or anything. He just wanted it put back on. We want to hope the inside isn't as bad as the outside. Now we'll pull the wheel off. Well, so far so good. The struts seem straight. The plastic pieces are there. The bushing here looks fine. It's not cracked or anything. The arms aren't bent. I don't see any leaks anywhere. And let's look under the front. We got some scrapage here, but the tow hook often scrapes on stuff. They did put a new cover on. I can see that's new. Some of it's just held on with twist ties though. Structurally it seems pretty sound, and it's not leaking anything, so that's a good sign. Now it got hit pretty solid, as you can see here. It's got a new motor mount on it now. There's the new motor mount, that's brand new right there. So it got hit big enough to break the motor mount. So what I'm worried about is, it might have messed with the electronics. So I'm going to put the wheel back on, then put my scan tool on. So we'll get the scan tool and we'll plug it in up under the hood here where it goes. It knows it's an '08 Honda Civic, so we'll touch that. We'll select them all, and away we go. Now it's going to analyze them all. There's all kinds of data. It's about half done. It's been going for 5 minutes. There's all kinds of data on these modern cars, which is a big reason you want to have uninsured motorist insurance on your car, because everything's run by computers. A wreck can mess up with the electronics. Most of the computer systems have no fuses on them. If they short out in one part, they can go through the whole system and start shorting everything out. The ABS system has a code. Battery voltage malfunction, that happens a lot, doesn't mean anything. Tire pressure monitoring. Tire 1, low air pressure. Tire 2, low air pressure. Rear left tire, low air pressure. It says they all have low air pressure. Well, I checked them and it doesn't, so I'm assuming the system doesn't even work right anymore. That probably has nothing to do with the wreck. I'm trying to read live data. It gets error, internal communication error. That's not a good sign. So I'm going to try another scan tool. Let's hope it's an error in this scan tool. But if the next scan tool says the same thing, then the wiring or the computer's been damaged in the wreck. So we're going to use my trusty Autel scanner. See if it works. We'll go to diagnostics. This is a Honda. We'll go Asian. Go to Honda. You think they'd have it in the beginning, but they don't. Sometimes people have weird ideas. Honda's down here. It's picked up the Honda. See what it does with live data. It's loading the live data. All right, I've learned another thing. I've been testing out that Bosch scanner. I would not advise anybody to buy it. It has too many flaws. Right there, it said error in communication with this Honda system. But this Autel scanner, as you can see, it's scanning all the data perfectly fine. I used to like Bosch products, but it seems that their quality has been going downhill. That scanner, I've used it numerous times where it either gave wrong data, or in that case it says error, it couldn't even communicate, where this Autel scanner worked perfectly fine. And they sent me a tire pressure monitoring little scan computer. It didn't work at all. It wouldn't even communicate with the cars. They did send me another one, and it's working so far, but it doesn't impress me. I would not go out of the way to buy these Bosch scan tools. I see their quality is And I noticed on the back of the one I have, it said made in Taiwan. So, hey, let me tell you, this Autel, much better scan tool. So we'll go through the data here. When you turn on the AC, the MAF sensor should always go up. And you can see it does. It's reacting correctly. Turn it off, it'll start going down. That's working. So far the data looks good. This Honda has 127,000 miles on it. And when you look at the air fuel data, it's 1.01, 0.99. It moves around a little bit. And so does the other side, 1.01. Of course, 1 is perfect. You never get a perfect car with this kind of mileage on it. It's pretty decent for an old Honda. The oxygen sensor on bank 2 is pulling too much current. You can see that it's orange. That shows it's over the data limit. And that's on the wreck side. So I would advise checking the wiring and probably replacing the sensor. It probably got damaged during the wreck. So in this case, this is sensor 1 on the top. And this is sensor 2 on the bottom. Easy to get to. Now the first thing we're going to do is see if this new sensor plugs into the harness. So here's the unplugged oxygen sensor harness. And yes, it snaps in. Alright, now we know it's the right one. Now we need a socket to get it off. I got a whole set of them. Well, this one works pretty good. Slides in and goes on, so we'll take the old one off. Then you put it on a giant bar. If you look down there, you slide it on top of the old sensor and then pull. I do mean pull. These things are on tight. I heard it snap loose. Once it's snapped loose, you can easily spin it with your bare hands. Just keep spinning until it comes off. It's a lot of spins. That's why you unplug it first, otherwise you can't get it out. And there it is. And in this case, the wiring's fine, so this may have nothing to do with it being in a wreck. These things just burn out over time. And as you can see, it's got a little grease in it, so you can screw it in easily and it won't get stuck. Then you just stick it back in the hole and spin it until it gets tight. Remember, there's a lot of spins in this thing. Just keep turning it, move the wire, turn it some more. They're deep. Now it's getting tight, so we'll put the socket back on. That's what you have the oxygen sensor socket for, so you can tighten it up. Watch it, they fall off all the time. You gotta use both hands. And you want it nice and tight. If you don't get it tight, and it sucks air, it'll give the wrong reading for the oxygen sensor. You gotta get it snug. Hence the long bar and socket to get it tight. And then of course you snap it together. There, it clicked and it's tight. It's gotta be tight. Now I'll take it for a spin. We'll hop in and crank her up. Down to good, we'll put the AC on. Still nice and cold. And we'll take it on a nice spin, take it to the highway. Everything seems fine. And as we're going around, it's running fine. Taking off fine. No check engine lights. It's idling quite smooth for a little 4-cylinder engine that has 127,000 miles on it. It's not shaking much at all now. And now you've learned 2 things. 1, make sure you buy uninsured motorist insurance so this doesn't happen to you. And 2, that even something as dumb as an oxygen sensor that's using too much voltage can mess with your computer system and make it run poorly. And you find out how easy it is to replace it on this particular Honda. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Francis says, good morning. I have noticed leakage under my Yaris 2008 engine. I noticed it leaks with a black rubber under the engine, around the engine and gearbox joint. Can I replace the rubber, please? All right, odds are that's not it. Understand that oil is just like us. Gravity affects it. So the oil's always going to end up on the bottom of the engine. And rarely does the bottom of those things leak. It's almost always leaking from somewhere else. So do my video, how to find oil leaks in your car. You get an ultraviolet leak dye kit. AutoZone sell them for like 30 bucks. You get a little UV dye, you put it in the engine oil, funky yellow sunglasses and a little UV light. And you see where the green dye's coming out. Now, from my experience of those, a lot of times you want to pray it's just the oil gasket on top. Take it out, look at it. If the dye comes out of there, great, easy, cheap fix. If not, it's off in the rear main seal of the engine. Then it will drip down and get on the bottom of the engine. You got to pull the transmission off, and then you got to take the back off the engine and replace the rear main seal of the engine. Big, giant job. If that's the case, try some AT 205 reseal. You can get it at Amazon. You add that to the oil. It's a polymer, and it can rejuvenate those seals, and sometimes they stop leaking entirely. Then you just put a bottle in every time you change the oil. Pray that works, because if it doesn't, you got to pull the transmission off to fix it. You can spend a lot of money on that. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.